So we asked the question, how to run a dungeon adventure in Dungeons and Dragons. This idea of pulling out of the narrative and really impressing on the players that this is a hazardous place that you don't want to be. Yes, there's monsters. Yes, there's exploration. Yes, there's XP to earn. But you want to get in, do your quest, and get out. You could very well be trapped down here, not just from traps, but by the nature of the dungeon, whether it's in disrepair or how it's been created. We're a couple of 100 feet underground, so communicating that. I wanted to now switch to the opposite side, city adventures, whether in between adventures where you're gathering information, or maybe it's an adventure where you're exploring various areas of a living city. This idea in Dungeons and Dragons, what are some of the things that we can do to convey to our players while the adventure is going on, whether it's a module or something you've written yourself, but to convey to the players that literally more than anything else, this city it's a city. It's a living place. There are things happening, and that feeling, conveying that to the players, their theater of the mind, being able to see that. So the first thing that I do with a city adventure is impress on the players time, the urgency and possibility of time. And this is true if I'm playing an advanced Dungeons & Dragons adventure or a D&D modern type adventure. The feeling that normally, just a sidebar for a moment, I'm very casual with keeping track of time. I don't really track food. I don't really track water unless it's a survival module, like Discover of the Lost Island, something like that, because we don't need to do bookkeeping. You have some food, you have some water, we're going on an adventure. Likewise, time, I'll say, okay, it's this time of day when the adventure starts out. You travel to here, it's now mid-afternoon, basically kind of morning, evening, night, and then late at night. But a city adventure, I get a little bit more regimented because I want to impress on the characters that as you navigate the city, what time really depends on what's going on, especially with NPC and faction interactions. So if it's at the height of the day, of the afternoon, all the merchants are out, all the people are trying to sell everything and traveling around, this is the time when a thieves guild is going to be most operative. If the players are searching for a thieves guild to try and capture an operative or make contact, well, the time that you go to do that really reflects on that possibility. Likewise, the possibility you might get pickpocketed. Remember, in Dungeons and Dragons, players love to pickpocket everything out there. But likewise, if you're walking around the city and you're a somewhat successful adventurer, meaning you don't have level 1 gear, that level 1 starting gear, you've got some good armor, you've got some weapons, maybe a few magic objects are glowing, and the Thieves Guild is going to be interested in that. They're going to try and pickpocket some of those purses. I had a Thieves Guild party working with an evil wizard who was just like a detect magic type wizard. And he would hang out on this overpass and like detect magic on various adventurers and various players in the party as they walked by. And in doing this, then he would communicate the magic items or possible things to pickpocket that the Thieves Guild I'd send out to try and pickpocket. So NPCs, look, the players can work together. They should, but NPCs controlled by a DM can also work together. Likewise, as we move into the night and evening hours, things shut down. Taverns get a little bit bigger. There's a vast difference if you're looking to gain information. Well, if I go into a tavern, say at 3 p.m., and I get a good seat and I set up, players and NPCs and other factions that come into the tavern, they're going to notice me right away because no one's there. You notice if there's like 5 people. But as a player, if I make my way in at night, when it's full, when it's packed, maybe I can blend in with the crowd a little bit more. Likewise, wandering monsters and chance encounters. Now, I know this has kind of fallen out of favor in D&D Modern, as opposed to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, where there were charts based on the chart that you roll on another chart. And I have very fond memories of AD&D is interesting because you kind of get what you get and you got to role play it and you got to deal with it. You have to be very tactical. There's no such thing as challenge rating or things like that. So literally we'd be wandering the city at night and pushing our luck because we want to uncover some things or questing. And the DM would roll for a random encounter. Okay, confirm. Random encounter, yes. Well, on that chart at night, it could be anything like some dire rats break out of the sewers and you have to fight them. Okay, a couple of low-level thugs step out of the shadows and you got to negotiate with them. Okay, some giant rats pour out and you have to just get rid of them. Okay, a vampire lord and, some thralls step out and demand tribute. Like, wait, what? Like, we're not playing Curse. We're like nowhere near that. We haven't walked through any weird shadow gate, fog gate type thing. How does a vampire lord walk out? Like, Fritz, we're only like third level. How can that be? All sorts of crazy random encounters. So in AD&D, because the encounters were all over the place on the Dungeon Master's Guide encounters for random encounters, you had to seriously think as a party, as a player, do I want to risk this at night? I mean, it could be a TPK just on the random encounter chart. So pulling that in, maybe I won't be as brutal or draconian playing in D&D Modern, but at night, you're going to encounter different things than during the day. So I find layered over the adventure, if I have a time cycle or if I'm aware of opportunity of time and I can modify that and I can impress that upon the party, then that really makes a city type adventure pop. That really makes it where, yes, you're one of maybe a couple of thousand, because we're talking about a D&D city that is interacting, that is navigating, that is making their way through this day. As a player, as a party, how are you doing that, and what does that look like? So now to my fellow Dungeon Masters and my fellow D&D players, when you're in that city, you're visiting Waterdeep, what really makes that pop out, right? From that theater of the mind, that experience that you have, what makes it pop out and really conveys the feeling of a living city, as opposed to, okay, we're going to go here and shop. Then we're going to go to the Temple of Helm. Then we visit the Thieves Guild, right? This kind of 1, 2, 3. How do we get away from that and make it a living and breathing environment?